Raul, tell us more about AI autonomy. Does that mean that bots and AI agents are going to take over?
That's what we hear in the public discourse nowadays, right? How we're just like
Should
years
we
away
run?
from from that happening. But no, I think the from a rapid canvas context, when we talk about autonomy, um, we look at historically in organizations. Um, if you're trying to do a lot of work around data analysis and workflow automation and things like that, uh, there is a kind of requirement of like knowing technical skills, right? Whether it's how to extract the data or how to write some kind of logic to do what you want to do. Um, and that has prevented a whole host of class of users, operational users, business users, analysts, um, from doing a lot more than they actually can from a capability standpoint because they might have a gap in their technical expertise. What AI does now is instead of everybody needing to learn how to write code to enable them to cross that gap, um, really we have reached a stage where the taking natural language and creating code from it is become super easy. So you and I can just converse with Rapid Canvas and say, "Hey, you know, I'm trying to, combine these two files." Literally, you can state that in English, and that command is converted to code, right? And then code goes and executes and does what you wanted to do. So almost it's like you have a virtual team of
Mhm.
technical experts, if you're an analyst, like supporting you. And so now you have the autonomy of being unblocked and fully empowered um, to go do things that you needed other individuals to help you within the organization who are more technically skilled than you to accomplish what you want to accomplish, right? And so to me, the autonomy is about empowerment of business teams, operational teams, um, teams that have less coding expertise to go do things they needed help from others to do before, right? So that to me, that's the autonomy piece, which is you have a lot of autonomy in your work now versus you were dependent before on other people.
Excellent. I saw some research work recently from Upwork, and they were talking about that there's this huge disconnect between the leadership team and the front line, where the leadership team, about three-quarters of them, I think it was 73%, indicate that they are embracing and using AI in their organizations. But then in the front line, the employees are saying we only see about like 30%. It's about about a third of that population that says that they're embracing AI. So there's this big disconnect in organizations. Can you tell us why there's a disconnect? What's the reason behind that?
So let's this chat GPT moment, right? 2022. It's like it's been a mind shift change for a lot of folks, right? Whether it's on the consumer front or whether it's in the enterprise front, where there is tremendous amount of awareness that anything is possible with generative AI, right? And when I say anything is possible, it's not just like people heard some theory somewhere, right? There's this constant stream. If you go to your LinkedIn feed, if you look at blog posts, if you search for articles, there is this constant theme of, oh, like we now there's an AI company that makes legal contract review simple. There's an AI company that creates codes for construction. There's an AI company that like takes and creates marketing assets for you, right? Or that will create like a logo for you. So now there's so much like, oh, this is what others are doing with AI, right? And that awareness is like constantly in front and center, right, in front of you. And so execs are reading this. That's number one. Number two is you have a consumer application like Perplexity or ChatGPT or Claude from Anthropic, where you can actually do some fun stuff in your non-work life, right? And so you're seeing this. Oh, I can do some analysis on my personal expenses, or I can review the contract that I have for my next lease or rental. And so you're seeing, as a personal experience on the consumer front, people are seeing that there is actually a huge leap that we have taken from an AI standpoint. Then you're like constantly getting this stream of enterprise applications that others are using doing fun stuff. And then you put that all into context. And me as a C-level exec, I'm thinking, okay, if everybody's doing this, from my business standpoint, I need to understand where in my business um, AI can make a big difference, and I need to go do something. And it's quite possible because I'm using it in my day to day life, and I'm hearing other people do this. And I also know that if I, from a competitive standpoint, like everybody else in the industry is doing it, so I need to do it, right? So this is the motivation, right? Like there is a tremendous drive to say, hey, this is a step function change, and everybody is like, you got to get on this train really fast. It's the same way where we had the mobile, right? Everybody's like, oh, I need to have a mobile channel now, but nobody says mobile channel anymore. It's just become a part and parcel of um, awareness, distribution, marketing, so on and so forth, right? So uh, I think that's where the executive motivation is coming from. Like, this is easy, everybody else is doing it. If I don't do it in my industry, like, I'm going to fall behind. So this is top of mind, and it's not that hard to do. That's how the execs are thinking. But when you try to look at the enterprise application level, there is what is possible in the lab environment and what is possible in theory, and what is possible in like a limited scoped, scaled context versus what is possible in the day to day with all the noisy data and all the messy processes and the reality of everything. It becomes hard. And so the frontline folks are left dealing with the reality of, like, my organization is still the same, the people I work with are still the same, the data is still in like 15 different places, and business processes are very unique and bespoke, right? And so I can't take something and just apply it here, right? It does, like, there is an effort required to make it work for our setup, right? So the frontline folks are seeing this reality, and it is not easy to make things work with that reality. And the execs are looking at the ease of use and the transformational step function change, the competitive landscape, and they're like, so this is why I won't call it a disconnect, but I'm like, um, there is the vision part of it, and there is the making that vision happen part of it, right? And I think one is quite further along compared to the other.
So let me follow up and ask then, how do you make autonomy real, not just for the executives, but also for the front line? Maybe you can give us some examples of how it can be real for the front line.
Yeah, and I think this is where, in the AI application world, we need to think differently than how we have been looking at SaaS applications. Everything was a point solution. It solves one simple, straightforward problem very, very effectively, right? Whereas the situation I talked about, you need a sort of end-to-end setup that will help you solve problems, right? Internal problems or needs or um, solutions. And so, first thing to think about is like, every organization, for the frontline folks, they need to empower these frontline folks with more end-to-end, more holistic systems. And what do I mean by that? I'm going to take a very simple use case. I'm a company that has a financial back office operations team.
Okay.
Every month, they have to reconcile invoices against orders and contracts, right? Very manual process. Somebody has to read the agreement, like when the invoice should be issued, how it should be issued, what is the payment schedule, what's the net 30, net 60, what have you. Then you have to look at like the account information, right, from the order system, or whatever is your CRM, to understand, okay, who's the contact that the invoice went to, what's the size of the deal, when was it closed, blah blah blah, all of that. And then you have these invoices, and then you have bank statements that may be actual payments, right? And so now you have to look at the invoices to say, okay, we did issue an invoice, and then you have to look at the bank statements. Okay, did we get paid or not? And this is an extremely manually intensive process today. Now, if an exec walks up to me and I'm the person doing this process and says, hey, you need to use AI to automate this whole process, conceptually, you can understand why it's so easy using AI to do this, right? Um, but the reality is, there's a lot of hard work that goes into automating this, right? So, for example, let's
Yeah,
start
this sounds
from
like an 18-month project. This doesn't sound like something where your boss comes up and says, fix it, and like you 5 minutes later, you get it done. So,
correct, right? And our goal is, try to see if you can take that 18-month project and collapse it to like 2 to 4 weeks, right?
oh, hmm
Um, and let's start with the first uh, challenge you have to overcome, which is like all this data resides in different formats and locations. How do you bring it together? So there is, um, you need to be able to connect to your CRM to get the contract information, and to get the account information. Then you need to get these invoices probably stored in some folder somewhere, or
hmm
maybe your QuickBooks or NetSuite or what have you. You may have bank statements. Again, they might sometimes get reconciled in your systems of record. They may not completely get reconciled. So that depends. Now, the first thing your AI system should be able to do is let you connect to all these sources, let you bring that data in. Okay, that's the number one thing. So I got these PDFs, I got these statements, I got these records about the accounts, I got the contracts and all of that. Now, once I get this in, um, the next step for me is to be able to match the records correctly, right? So the records I pull from database probably are in tabular format anyway, so it's easy to read and manipulate that data. But some of the PDF information is not in that format, and this is now where you can see that you can start creating modules with generative AI. Like, hey, read this contract, and this is the 5 pieces of information I need from the contract, right? And bring it and store it in this one location. I don't need the whole contract. I just need these 5 pieces of information, right? Like, when was it signed? What are the terms? What is the amount? And any kind of caveats around that, right? And then, oh, by the way, these invoices are in PDF. So read these invoices, and these are the 5 fields I need from every invoice, right? So that also can be extracted and stored. Now, this is what we call, like, the word for this is now agents, right? There's an agent that is reading the contract, extracting the relevant information and storing it. There's an agent that is reading the invoice, understanding the terms and storing it, right? There's an agent that is going and connecting to your database and pulling that data every day, right? So now you have this sort of multi-agent framework, right? Which is, from a realistic standpoint, that is what you do. Now, once that data is in, um, now you need to start matching the records once you have extracted all the information. Now, this matching is not easy either, because sometimes the name of the customer appears slightly differently in the invoice than in the database. Sometimes those amounts are paid over 2 or 3 different installments. So, like, there is a little bit of logic that needs to know, for this invoice, I have 3 bank payments that need to match this. So, again, this part, you can have an agent that say, hey, how don't match exact names, match similar names, or transactions might not be coming in one payment but multiple payments, right? So you can see how in this example,
Hmm.
both you have the challenge, which is it's not so easy. There's a lot of logic and technical infrastructure that is required to connect these databases, to extract the information, to match the data. Um, and the way to solve this is like one platform can let you do that end to end. And every piece of logic in this platform, you can just converse using natural language. You don't need to write any code. So you can converse using natural language saying, hey, connect to my CRM. Here are my credentials. Get this information. Um, read this PDF. Extract these 5 fields. Like it literally has to be that easy, right?
Yeah. So now, like, if I'm that business analyst or operations analyst, like you were saying, I don't have to worry about all the details, all the technical details, and all the um, potential roadblocks that there are with handling all that data, because I probably know what data I need and where it resides, but I don't necessarily have all the technical details to be able to connect it all up. And so now the AI agent or agents are doing that heavy lifting, all that work for me. And that empowers me in the front line to be able to ask a relatively simple question and for all that heavy lifting to be done. And then for me to be able to analyze the information a lot faster. So is speed one of the benefits of being able to have AI autonomy? Or what are the other benefits of it?
Yeah, I mean, the first benefit is just the possibility of making this happen, especially with the multi-agent end-to-end platforms. Because imagine normally in a SaaS world, how you would do this. There would be one solution that lets you read contracts and extract information. There'd be another solution which lets you connect to your CRM and pull out certain fields. There is another SaaS solution that lets you convert PDF to structured data. Now you still have to figure out how do you write the logic to create a pipeline to run these steps in a certain sequence, and one can talk to the other, right? Which is why, to your earlier point, there was a disconnect of like executives are thinking, yeah, this is easy. I know agents can do all of it. Like, okay, but these agents need to talk to each other, and they need to be in an ecosystem where you hand off. The handoffs are clean. The understanding of what happened in the previous step to the next step is clean, right? So, in order to bridge that gap, like to even make this possible, the autonomy piece, I think this multi-agentic end-to-end platforms are the right answer, right? So, one, the benefit is something that wasn't even possible before now is possible. Secondly, to your point, the benefit is it is the speed is very the velocity of creating these applications is very high. Like
Mhm.
you can literally build what I just said in less than 2 days.
Wow.
Imagine historically if you had to hire like armies of consultants who are implementation experts at this stuff, they would be writing code and you have to give them requirements and they write PRD and SOWs and all these things. I think it would take you more than 4 to 5 weeks just to get the requirements down. Forget actually building this, right? You can build it much faster than
Even
what it
to just
to write all
document
the
what your
requirements.
requirements were. Yeah, I
Exactly,
get
right?
it.
So I think speed is a definite benefit. I think third is um, the adaptability to your business, because what you just built is very specific to your business. This is another kind of like holdover from the SaaS world, is like, oh, I need to fit my business process in a particular way of a SaaS tool because they are very cookie cutter. And so now you're like, oh, well, it doesn't quite do the 4 variations of what I need. It just does the one variation. So I'm going to try and fit everything into this one variation. Whereas now you can be, you can make it more adaptable, more custom to your setup. And that just means it's much more fit for you rather than it's kind of fits 50%, but not quite 100%. So there's like tremendous benefits to both the, I mean, the autonomy piece, of course, is huge, but there is like downstream benefits of things that weren't even possible as benefits before.
Yeah, and because the reality is businesses are complex and it's not a one size fits all, even in the same industry with the same market, et cetera. And so being able to very quickly be able to tailor a solution, and especially as you're pointing out, in the past, everything was very siloed, but the reality is business is like a complex network, right, of processes that impact each other. And so being able to ask a simple question, which crosses over different siloed areas, whether it's the data or whether it's the processes, and being able to ask that more holistic question that encompasses all of those functional areas and data is a very powerful mechanism for organizations to have, and get answers to, and get it rapidly makes it even better.